Right. So why don't we just make a start? So again, thanks everybody for joining us today. A little bit about ProFundCon. Be rude not to. We've been running for 20 years, and those of you who are early joiners, you heard me talk about what we do. And fundamentally, we use marketing automation to help fund managers, asset managers, private banks, wealth managers raise assets, raise money, generate inflows. The other thing that we do as well is we integrate into the various CRM platforms like Salesforce, Dynamo, Secure, and the like. And what's kind of come about over 20 years, we've also every quarter released state of the nation reports around fund marketing, digital marketing in finance, and things around raising AUM with digital marketing as well. So that's kind of something we do for our customers and for the industry itself. And if you visit our website, there's a whole raft of content relating to marketing automation, email marketing, digital marketing, all are focused around hedge funds and sectors in finance. We also have a global ranking system where we rank the top hedge funds in the world. If you're an asset manager, Living Group, Kate and Duncan do a great job on that, but we decided to go down the route of hedge funds. So if you visit our website, you can access this content, or you can just email me and I can send you a copy. Number one was GAM this year, but you can you can find yourself on that list, hopefully. Okay, so really, what drives a lot of the reason we run these webinars and a lot of conversations we have with marketers is the ability for marketers to kind of proceduralize and structure their marketing. And we kind of talk about these kind of five elements to your go-to-market strategy around your planning. And it's all around, building your fund narrative, doing your brand awareness, demand generation, engagement, and analytics. And these are kind of the five steps most marketers, most fund marketers have to go through. Unfortunately, there are too many charlatans out there who will just kind of say, no, we will build you a website. You build a website, you haven't done your narrative, you haven't created any content, there's no channels to push that information out. And that is probably kind of, the last thing anybody who's a fund manager needs to think about, because they just think, I'll build a web page, that will be enough. Where is everybody? And marketing itself is an art. And the challenge also becomes is that once you've built that out, not only have you got to build your narrative out, you've got to create brand awareness, you've got to continually do that. And the reason you've got to continually do that is because, time moves on. Your message moves on, your performance moves on, your investors and your prospects move on. So you've got to have the ability to generate content and analyze it. And why that's so important, the analysis, is because that analysis feeds into your funnel. And whichever way you look at it, whether you're selling funds, whether you're selling, software, whether you're selling fans, whether you're selling phones, there is a funnel element to this. And because in our business, when things enter the top of the funnel, it's a while before investments are made. And it's then building out what we call mid-funnel automation. So when people are thinking, deciding, all the steps people go before due diligence on your fund, how can you constantly have the ability, or not constantly, but what techniques can you deploy to be constantly front of mind? And that's where mid-funnel automations come in. What content can we send them? What white papers can we send? What investment report can we send people to? What webinars can we invite people to? What events can we invite people to? And just building that out, those kind of mid-funnel automations, keeps you and your fund kind of front of mind, and your managers front of mind as well. So that is really, really useful. Now, the other thing to kind of look at as well is, what we spoke about the first time around last month. We spoke about the things that bring you success is taking the stress out of your marketing operations, building out integrations. And this year, the big thing is around people do talk about AI, and we'll come to that. But to make a material difference, it's around account-based marketing. And if you go to our website, the replay of that is available. But what we're going to talk today about is part two of this, is we're talking about CRM, how to drive adoption, which really, I'm really saying there, CRM, how to stop changing your CRM in 7 years' time, because everybody seems to drop the CRM and buy another one after 7 years. So how can you make sure that doesn't happen? Data, analytics, reporting. I think everybody, before people spoke about AI, everyone was talking about engagement and analytics. And I'm really going to expose the things that you really need to be looking at, which is not just about, well, who's opened what. And finally, and this kind of feeds into what I spoke about earlier on about these mid-funnel automations, is a real deep dive into automations and workflows that you can build around your marketing activities. And at the end, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, CRM. So CRMs, whichever way you look at it, people build them for different reasons. The real core of what you want to be thinking about with your CRM as it stands today is how investor-centric is it? What information are you holding about your investors and about your prospects? Have you actually even got their holding information in their portfolio information in there? I mean, we spoke to somebody recently where they couldn't even get the account balances from their CRM, from their accounting package into their CRM. So without that basic level of information available, a CRM just becomes an expensive Rolodex that ultimately never gets used. So what we've got to be able to think about is when you're kind of deploying your CRM or extending your existing CRM, how can you push information to the salesperson relating to the interests of that person, their success criteria, and what kind of analysis can you do to kind of help the salesperson within the CRM know what's the next action of this contact? And this is a little bit of where AI comes in as well, is how can you basically take a contact, call them, knowing what they're potentially going to talk to you about. Now, whilst that seems quite far-fetched to do, and that is ultimately the end goal, the interesting thing, that only comes about when you've got enough marketing points around, the sales activity, that you're pulling in all these multiple data points, so you're actually able to work out what someone's interests are, that you can run the analysis on their potential, needs, aspirations, requirements, and also that kind of also know from an individual perspective what does success look like to that individual prospect. Now, the more marketing you do, the good news is the more of those data points you get. And then how you feed that into your CRM is kind of what I'll come to later on in this presentation. But that's kind of what you need to be thinking about. Not most people end their CRM journey with names, address, opportunities, accounts, meetings, call notes, things like that. But that is kind of CRM 1990s. It really is now, how can you leverage all the data that you have and build an investor-centric CRM? And that needs integration. And integration now is even more important because you're collecting some really powerful data. Now we're able to collect data from investor portals, so you're actually understanding people's deeper engagement. Similar with data rooms as well, or wherever you're securely pushing your packs, your data packs, your fund packs, your investor packs, all that kind of information. People are having to log in to access that information, so you can really get some really deep data. And also the fact that now, people are running online events, physical events, Zoom, ON24, their channels like Bright Talk and Asset TV. More and more data is becoming available, and there has to be a way to kind of push that into your CRM. So just like this screen over here, somebody can log in and see what a particular contact has been accessing in a way that's easily consumable. And here it is. Here is what it would look like in a CRM. The ability to look at a particular contact and then look at all the things that they've been engaging in. So this is an example where they've engaged on LinkedIn, they've downloaded some fact sheets, they've connected on Twitter. So again, for the marketing end game is ultimately to do three things. Raise AUM, preserve AUM, which ultimately shows the impact that marketing is having on raising AUM. And ultimately, the only way you can do that is pushing this data in a consumable way to the salespeople to help them have better calls and make better connections. So that's kind of CRM. CRM is all about integration. It's all about not only having integration, but giving the salespeople the visibility of who they need to contact and building it around so it is all investor centric. So that's kind of CRM. That's kind of things to think about, as you move into the year, if there's, and the planning you're doing into the next quarters. The next thing to talk about is data, or data analytics and reporting. Now, this is quite a controversial topic because most people say, well, what data are we collecting? Now, some of this data can be anonymous and some of this can be non-anonymous. But the point is that unless you do some very basic things around even your anonymous data, it's very hard to actually plan successful outcomes. And the thing about looking at data is always, a good friend of mine, Will Smith, says to me, well, now you've got the data, what are you going to do with it? And this is the thing. So once you've got the data, that's the wrong place to actually start. The point where you want to start is where you kind of say, okay, what are our investor personas? What is our desired investors' digital behavior? What are our current investor journeys? And how can we know what's working and what's not working? What in behavioral analysis can we do on our campaigns? And that is, if you don't take anything away from, today, take that away, is that if your marketing team cannot answer those kind of 4 key questions, it's a problem because you're not building, your marketing is not being done with your outcomes in mind. And it's very primitive to say, we just want more money. We want more engagement. Of course, everybody wants that. But the reason why there are specialist people out there who do these things for a living and make lots of money out of it because they really understand, the deeper elements that drive engagement and investor customer behavior. So that's something worth looking into. Is really understanding what outcomes you want and how are people currently using your digital assets. I mean assets as in website, not crypto, but also what do you want them to be doing. And it's very much a thought experiment. It doesn't cost you a huge amount other than time. The next thing to do is looking around, from a data analysis point of view, clustering to say, across all platforms that you have, what are people interested in? And again, it's a really simple technique, but the number of people who even do this is minimal. In fact, unless people kind of use a platform like ours, I doubt people even know what themes on a monthly, weekly basis around their website or their social or their portal are resonating. So again, data, great, but focusing on outcomes. So now you've got this data, how does this feed the outcomes that you want? The other thing to look at around your data is negative correlation. And it's very easy to know known knowns, who's visiting the site, who's opening things. And again, that is a very traditional way of looking at the data. And before you jump to AI and anything like that, looking at negative correlations is really quite useful when you're analyzing data. And what this is all about is looking at who are the people that are the most engaged but have not been contacted. Or conversely, who have been contacted the most and have engaged the most, but have suddenly stopped engaging with you. So that kind of, reverse correlation, that negative correlation is again quite a useful way of looking at your data, kind of answering Will's question of now you've got the data, what you're going to do with it. It's kind of asking the data the right questions. And again, when you talk about asking the data, it's almost in kind of chat GPT language. How can you what prompts can you write to get the right, to get the kind of the outcomes from chat GPT that you want to use. And again, data is only as good as the questions you ask it. So whether you're using prompts, whether you're using negative correlation, whether you're using clustering, without, the question asked to the data, which has to come from an outcome that you hopefully want, the data is useless. So hopefully that kind of highlights that. And the other thing, once you've done that, you've done all kind of this data analysis, is how do you report? And again, how many times have you in your careers have you looked at a dashboard and then walked away and said that's the end of it, and it's been printed out in nice colors and that's the end of it? That is a problem with dashboards. And if you ever want to think of ever boiling my blood to ask me to build a dashboard, because there's no call to action from a dashboard, and it's a nice lazy kind of middle management way to kind of get comfortable. Like, look, we look busy, we're doing busy things, but there's nothing actually to do. Now, what the converse of that is kind of building reports that are screaming for calls to action and delivering that for a fund into the CRM, where salespeople just have a list of people that, based on certain criteria, they know that they need to call. And that really is where I think marketers, have to be focusing their energies on it. Yes, it's fantastic sending out content, creating great websites, creating great fact sheets, but it's kind of joining the dots and kind of completing the virtuous circle where you can have, based on those engagements, an algorithm that sits underneath it, whether you call it machine learning, whether you call it AI, that just serves up and surfaces the people the sales teams need to talk to. And it's in essence, what actionable insights are you as a marketer creating in 2024? So that is hopefully, where, you answer that question, what do you do with all the data? And here is a classical, what you deliver to management. And I just showed you, I've got that one there because it says lots of things. It's lots of pretty pictures. And I'm sure when I brought this up, you kind of went, oh, that looks nice. And that's all it is. Yeah, it just kind of looks nice. It tells you a few things, but it doesn't tell you a lot. So yeah, that's me. That's me one, dashboards nil. So, but they have their place. Super. So now that we're kind of 20 minutes into the webinar, I'll take you on to a deep dive now on workflows, automations, and how that all ties in to helping managers and marketing managers and funds really help the hedge fund sales process and the asset managers sales teams as well. So automation. Well, the challenge becomes now is that it's not just about going to Miami, going to Game, going to Salt and having one-to-one connections with people. That the investor journey is pretty much multiple touch points. And from thought leadership, website, events, social, inbound, outbound marketing, there's lots of things that a marketer has to do and has to be on top of, even before, in the awareness consideration phase, even before, an investor is looking at the decision phase and the due diligence phase. So it's automation is important because no one is spending money on hiring another marketing person, and the number of marketing channels have increased. The inefficiency of the marketing team increases as well. So for every new channel you add to your marketing mix, the marketing team loses 15 to 20% efficiency. So by the time you've added your website, your social, your email, your investor portal, and choose another, your marketing team is actually not a marketing team anymore. And they're not actually achieving what they're supposed to. And if a marketing team is not achieving, the brand's not being made, the brand gets diluted. And no matter what people say, there's only so much charisma a salesperson can have when reaching out to investors, because it needs that marketing backup. So ultimately, the marketing backup, everyone goes back to type. All these digital data points and reporting get ignored. And the people that can actually do this well will be the ones that succeed. So if you are a typical marketer, and I was a fund marketer, so I kind of know this, and you're still having to support the sales team and do marketing and with multiple channels, how do you buy more time back? And you do that through automations. And automations, as I said, is kind of the part that actually engages with people who are engaging with you and kind of leads them through with various content to make an investment. Now, automation matters because it's just helping you do more with less. And the way you kind of do this is the ability to have tools that give you the ability to run drip campaigns, build out nurture campaigns, do retargeting, creating calling campaigns, a bit similar to what I showed you earlier on, and systems that enable you to do content distribution. So that's creating content once and then distributing it through various channels. Now, once you've kind of done that, it's a case of just letting it go and effectively just letting it run. And that is what those mid funnel automations are. They just run, they keep running, and at the end of it, it will then add, if somebody is absolutely engaged and is potentially ripe for a sales call, the system should then surface that. And as I showed you in the previous slide, it just pops up as a call to action for a salesperson. Now, what matters to a fund when you're running a fund campaign is things like the automations, and this is kind of diving into a little deeper, is the ability to have automations that sign people up automatically to events, emails them if they haven't signed up. That's a really good automation. Re-engaging contacts. So if you've got contacts that have been engaged with you in the past but have stopped being engaging with you, building out a re-engagement campaign automation where you kind of send them some new content or a series of new content. Inactive investors. So this is another automation that allows you to track which of your investors have stopped accessing your content and actually getting somebody to actually call them up just to make sure there's no redemption risk. Liquid events is looking around to see which of your investors or prospects even have had a liquid event, and then maybe send them an educational piece or even call them up. And cross-selling is the ability to see which of your investors are looking at other products you or somebody else may have, and then kind of selling them and nurturing them into some new products you may have. So it's not just about, taking a generic ideal in the previous slide of just about a nurture campaign. Well, what does that mean? Or a drip campaign? It's kind of focusing it around the activities that your fund's marketing team is doing. And what I've kind of listed up here is what is very simple to do. You can do it in Excel, create these lists, and then email them or build out a drip campaign or a calling campaign for your sales team. It's very simple to do. Automation doesn't mean, cogs of wheels and things that look very complicated like this, which you can do. It can even just be, in Excel, with a phone, or within Outlook. Now, yes, and now the reason I kind of showed this slide is because once you kind of get through creating your automations, you've got to kind of build them out. And whilst it can be done through Excel and other tools, it really is about having a kind of flowchart engineering mindset as opposed to a procedural mindset, a process mindset, as opposed to most marketers, which are, we tend to be slightly more creative. So this, I kind of bring this here because it's a skill that needs to be learned. And you're blessed if you have creative and procedural. Most marketers don't. So it's worth, just being aware that this is a skill that, you kind of need to think about, as to develop as time goes on. So they're complex systems that let you do that, and they're simple ones. Super. So hopefully, everybody found this useful. I've got, I'm just checking on the time. That's exactly 30 minutes. So we're on time. So if anyone's got any questions, now's the time to ask. Okay, we've got a question come in. You didn't speak about AI. What's happening? Okay, good question. So I think the reason I've kind of stayed away from AI in this series is actually the next webinar is going to be on AI, because it's very easy to kind of get lost in AI without kind of getting the basics right. So the question is, we at ProFundCom have built an AI roadmap that we've been implementing. And the question with AI is what outcomes does a fund manager need? Does a marketing person in a fund manager need, or in an asset manager need? Is it to create better content? Is it to analyze the data better? Is it to have templates that auto-create? Again, without those outcomes in mind, whether you're using AI, basic data analytics, it's kind of lost. Where I do see AI making a big difference in how marketers, I think, in the next period of time will be using it, will be using AI or doing their jobs, is fundamentally around 2 or 3 areas. The first is around content creation, is to say, right, we've created this content, and I'm actually talking about this actually next week at the HFM event, is understanding that even though you've written content, different types of people ingest content in different ways, especially geographically. So finding ways to automatically create content that produces automatically, depending on geographies, the layout of the email, the colors of the email, and the language of the email. And that is quite interesting because different cultures perceive different tonality, different typography, different colors, different layouts. It's actually quite interesting when you actually look at it. So building out that kind of AI that automatically does this without hugely changing the message is something to look at. Now, compliance has an element to look at if you're changing the language, and if the AI starts to hallucinate, but that's a really interesting case study. One that we've been implementing as well is looking at, it's actually available in our product, where you can look at your email and we use AI to compare that email to all the email campaigns that have been successful, the email layout, and actually suggest various areas where the email could improve. So that's one really good use of AI. The other part of AI that we feel that is going to be very useful is actually in workflows as well. So if you remember that the workflow had different launch points, different elements of the kind of the workflow, as it were, but basically having the AI work out and adding its own flow to say, well, actually, you've added these flow, but we know that another branch could work equally as well or even better. So effectively making decisions on the workflow is again another part where AI will make a difference. I think you know is that there's always a question that people ask is that will AI replace the content writers of the world? And I think the challenge there is two. I think one, what I think it the challenge with using ChatGPT and whether you're using OpenAI or using Google's Gemini is that they are using other people's content to generate their content. And there's a barrel load of copyright issues that is just about to start in the US about using that content. However, if you are using that kind of insight on your own content, that's another matter. So what you can effectively do is effectively you can get, like Microsoft Copilot. There are products out there that will read your website, will read all your content, understand, the voice, how you write, and you can then use it to kind of bring out content or content style that you can then edit. So I think that's that, and we're doing that at ProFundCon now. We've just trialed it. We're just about to release it, where we've taken 20 years of content and have just thrown an AI a language model at it, and the outputs are absolutely amazing. So from a content generation perspective. So we use that as our own prompts to write better articles and better white papers. Are the robots coming? I don't think so. All right, we've got a few more questions. So we've got a question from Torsten. What's the start to Torsten is saying, what is the cost to start the first workflow process for a new emerging manager? What content advice for this first workflow process in the company? So essentially, what that is around what is your go-to-market strategy and what is your, why, the answer, why us, why you, why now, right? To buy our fund, what's so great about us? What do we know about you? And why is it now the right time to invest with us? And that is, the best workflow with that is A/B testing, is to basically create a workflow, create content, create various types of content, run it through different channels, LinkedIn probably being the number one channel, and basically having the ability to know who your ideal investor is, Torsten. So if your ideal investor is a particular type, use Sales Navigator to find out, who they are, what they are, where they're working, and essentially use, you can use companies like ZoomInfo to get their emails, build out email campaigns, calling campaigns, is the way to do it. And from that, the workflows will, and this is not automated workflows, this is physical workflows as well as some automation. You'll actually see what lands better than others. So that would be my recommendation. LinkedIn, speaking to existing contacts, is the most effective way if you're a new fund. So hopefully that helps. No, my pleasure, Torsten. Right, we've got Anonymous on social media integration like Twitter, LinkedIn, and how that compliance fits into this. I think the question really is how do you get around compliance? And it is fairly straightforward in as much as long as you are talking about things about your fund, about your brand, around, who are the people, who are the people interested in you? What is your investment strategy? What's your attitude to risk? What are your thoughts on particular issues? And just making it like a non-solicitation content. That is kind of an important one to get right. Making sure you're inviting people to events that you're running, whether they are luncheons, whether they're events that you run in your offices or online. Bringing people together has a huge impact on how you build those connections through social. So I think people get too caught up in how many likes did I get, or how many reposts did I get on LinkedIn, or did anyone comment? That's kind of not the point. The point is to get that second level engagement, is to put something on LinkedIn, put something on social, inviting people to do something on your website, or do something at your event, or leave their data or their email address behind on your event platform. And I think that's my thoughts on social, is leave enough there to build people's curiosity for them to kind of come back for more. And interesting enough, all the kind of 130 people on this webinar, that's kind of what we do. And I've always believed that, we've got to eat our own dog food. So I hope, anonymous attendee, you found that useful. Got another question here. What are my thoughts on Jasper AI? So Jasper AI, I do encourage you to go out, even now, just quickly Google Jasper AI. Jasper AI is being heralded as the most awesome content production system that's out there. And it does some automation for content. It is very interesting. And I say interesting, but from a marketer's point of view, it's just a nice way to see where potentially AI is going. And they've got a really good trial. And, I think, you can do a monthly sign up just to get a sense of where, in people's mind, where content and AI creation, content using AI creation is going. I think there is nothing out there yet that will do content or a campaign orchestration, where you basically say, and that's kind of the lazy man's way of doing it. I want to send out this campaign with this message. I want these outcomes. Go build it for me. I'll tweak it, and it goes out. I think from all the people that I've spoken to who are in the kind of commercial B2C world are saying that's something that's going to be very difficult to manage, because you're kind of giving away a lot of content creation to something that may not, know local nuances, may not know, different stock items. And I think the same is even worse for fund marketers, because, we've got jurisdictions that we need to manage, and compliant content. So it's almost like you can't get that campaign orchestration through AI. If anything, it's probably going to get more manual campaign marketing. So best practice on LinkedIn with submitting marketing content, length, frequency, time of day, novelty. Is oversaturation a valid concern? I think with LinkedIn, and this again depends whether you've got a marketing person or you're kind of doing this yourself. So if you're a marketing person, 3 bits of content: long form, mid form, short form. Make sure one of the images has a picture of somebody in the company who's talking about it. That has a lot of weight. Consistency in posting, very important. You can create articles in LinkedIn, which are useful. Time of day, it just depends the geographies you're targeting. And 11 o'clock is a pretty safe time to put content out. The real key about LinkedIn posts is understanding the algorithm. And the algorithm is, you post something, it then has a look to see, of your network, how many people have engaged with that. And once a significant threshold is achieved, it kind of makes that available in more people's feeds. And that is that's the one thing to kind of master. And I know people try and game the system, but that's kind of how it works. And you know, it has to. Richard, that is Richard Hindley's question, by the way. It really is a question of having a content map, content diary, and you diarize your content as it goes out, which is very useful. Novelty of content, you're assuming people are reading, and that's a challenge. People who are good at kind of giving you probably some better advice would be John Green from Apex. He is kind of the master of this as well, and most of what I've learned, I've kind of learned from him as well. So I hope that was useful. Got any more questions? No, that's it. Well, all I can say to everybody who's joined and put questions, thanks for your time. I hope this was useful. I will be sending out the replay over the weekend. So, and if you need anything from me, well, you've got my email address. And hopefully you can sign up for the next webinar, which will all be around AI and where that's going to take fund marketing. So have a great weekend, everybody, and thank you very much for your time.